Hello. Thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the time for us to stitch together online. I will be stitching Sashiko. Today I will work on something without pattern. Sorry, I have a candy in my mouth. I got a little throat issues. So I will work on my stuff. I hope you can bring some of your stuff. Either stitching, either anything is fine. But there will not be any lecture, technical lecture. There's no workshop here. This will be just a time for us to stitch together. So if you could bring something to something to stitch together, and if you could share the time together, that'd be great. ですね。雨がなくなると思ってたんですけど、計算ミスでなくなってませんでした。差し子配信やっていこうと思います。よろしくお願いします。金曜日のお昼、日本時間のお昼は英語で差し子の配信をします。日本語は今日の夜の9時半ぐらいからかな。今日の夜の9時半ぐらいじゃなくて9時半から日本語でやりますので、またよかったら見に来てください。Sorry, I did not expect to have this candy until today. Sorry. I don't plan to swallow it, but hello. Friday morning in Hong Kong. Good morning. Yep, this is the great time for. I hope you can stitch with your cats and dog. And yes, background. This bag. I'll just bite it. Just give me a minute. Yeah, this background picture is just one. Sorry. I'm not sorry. I don't know how people can do live streaming while eating or while chewing something. I hope I'm not gonna get cavities. Yes, so the back picture, back picture is not about. This is the jacket we made last year, 2 years ago probably. This is one of the patterns we enjoy stitching. We have the same pattern pre-printed patterns, pre-printed fabric. We made those fabric because this is something troublesome to prepare without those. I mean, it takes some time to prepare with all hand. Of course, you can do it by yourself too. But we do have this kind of patterns, pre-printed fabric, and we made the jacket out of it. Alright, so I will change my camera. If you have any questions about Sashiko historical perspective, I am happy to sort of elaborate. Shinobu-san, ありがとうございます. Hello from Japan. Good morning from Australia. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming. So I will switch the camera. Where is the camera? There we go. Sure. Today's topic is, hello Sharon, thank you so much for coming. Today's topic is sort of the negative space. I think that negative space is sort of the art term to explain what is not drawn, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm not really, into that. But I think I'm gonna just talk about what is in between. It is very, I said 5 times. It is extremely important to understand what is in between the dualism to understand the Japanese culture. That's probably the biggest challenge for many non-Japanese people to understand what Sashiko is. This is not something I can even teach, and therefore I have to kind of depend on the people who take that workshop if they are happy with those ideas or not. Just a second, okay? So it is very difficult to talk about it, but at the same time, I cannot give up to explain that. So I will talk about what is in between. Why do we look at something in between, something that we do not intend to make? Um, and this is my fourth year to try to explain that in between concept. It's the outside of the dualism. If you have been following my account, my stories, you probably get it. You probably have an idea. But for those who are new to Sashiko, who has been practicing Sashiko, focusing on the outcome, it is probably challenging for it's like eating the raw fish, probably. I don't know if it's a good analogy or not, but if your mind is saying that a fish has to be cooked, eating it raw is a little bit of challenge. So, and if you say that you like sushi, I want you to be able to enjoy raw fish as well. Well, at least if you are teaching how to make sushi, I want you to be able to cook raw fish. If there's any sushi chef who does not know how to prepare fish, that's a little bit. I mean, at least he's or she is not the Japanese sushi chef. Hello there. Oh, thank you so much for the comments. Yes, hello. New Mexico. Yes. I'm sorry. I was in New Mexico. Did I tell you that, Helen? I was in New Mexico once for like a few weeks, and I love that avocado. I'm sorry, that's very superficial, but I sometimes wish to go back. Yeah, well, you're in New Mexico, right? Oh, just a second, okay? I cannot stitch while reading the. I agree, really wonderful to see the diverse place we all. Yes, that's the beauty of this YouTube or even live streaming. We used to have this kind of gathering in person, sitting in one community. So the people who could join those kind of stitching or even the people who could join those kind of community or space were those who were located in the same house, same city, same community, same town. And we probably call that Sashiko, right? We call that Sashiko. Therefore, because of those locations, because of the difference of the locations in the city, there are so many kinds of Sashiko in this world. There's no such a thing as the Sashiko. Just a second. Oh, where did it go? So that's why I keep saying that you are the future of Sashiko, because this is gonna be the Sashiko we kind of want to pass down. If there's any name that we can make for this one, this is gonna be like a live streaming Sashiko, something like that. If we kind of develop the specific technique, specific idea, philosophy based on this live streaming together, not by me. I'm not leading this. I'm just providing the space. So that would be another form of Sashiko, and that's probably the very most, not a most, but very important part of Sashiko, sharing the time, talking about very normal things, and enjoy. Look, spend time together. It does not have to be positive. Of course, it won't. It's good to be positive, but it doesn't have to be positive. The place to be is the things I would like to make. Do you mean to say, why do we look at negative space when we are trying to focus on the stitches? Not really. That's not what I'm trying to say. Well, I probably shouldn't use the word negative space, because that's probably the established term for the English, and I don't know what it is really. So probably the easier way to say that is the in between or outside of the dualism, focusing on that, focusing on the result, or right and wrong, or good or bad, we sometimes forget the most important thing, which is, just a second, which is something in between. Just a second, I cannot stitch with this one. What's going on? I know, like, it's not making any sense, and I am trying to make sense somehow, but I probably have to focus on talking if I want to talk about it, but I will do my best here today. So it is not wrong. I don't want you to misunderstand it, that it's wrong, but most of the Sashiko we practice in today's society has the answer. One of the comments I got on today's Instagram was very interesting. I have not replied to her or him yet, but the question was that that I don't use the hoop. I don't use the hoop for the Sashiko stitching, and she thought that she was supposed to use it. And I do have a loop, but I have never used that before. Oh my god, I am still here. I was not supposed to be here. Just a second. I was not supposed to be here. Come on, people, please tell me that I was in this scene. I usually, anyway, so using the hoop, like embroidery hoop, is not wrong. You can, of course, use it if you want to, but since I have received that kind of message, it means that there are people who are teaching that Sashiko requires those hoops. Or they might even say that you have to use hoop to make Sashiko stitching. And it is okay to use it. At the same time, that's already focusing on what is right and wrong. And that's the mindset we really carry that, and it's perfectly fine. At the same time, that does not bring us to the understanding of what Sashiko can be, or even like Japanese culture can be. So since you're watching this, I would like to give you a little bit of practice or even assignment to try. Can you not decide it? The practice is that kind of leave it as is. You don't judge it, you don't decide it, you don't prioritize it. It's just stay it as is. And that brings you a lot of negative things as well. It's not a good thing, to be honest, especially in the society. You have to make a decision, and the faster you make a decision, the better you probably get. So we are trained, very much trained, to do those logical thinking and so critical thinkings to get the answers faster and more accurate. I suggest you to do opposite if you can. Then probably you may find something while stitching, not while thinking about, like, I don't think anybody can get to the Sashiko's core by just thinking what Sashiko can be. Instead, I want you to kind of lose yourself in the stitching so that you do not realize what you were even worried about. It's not only a Japanese thing. I mean, many people probably have felt a similar way, and that's a beautiful thing. And I want to keep that. But unfortunately, we were supposed to teach, or we were supposed to share those no answer, no right or wrong, the core part of Sashiko before any of those textbook or any tutorials. And that's not anybody's problem but Japanese. We did not do that. So since you're here, I would like you to not to think. That's probably the answer. Not to think, not to worry for that matter. And just enjoy and just listen to the stories as is, not, change it or translate it in your mind. Just listen. Then do not act, don't act. We don't act on that. We just sit with it for a while stitching. Then it might start having some sort of stories outside of the dualism. I know it does not make any sense, and I cannot believe I'm talking about this kind of very philosophical thing. But I think that's how Japanese people were practicing Sashiko very in the original format. It's not my Sashiko, it's not our Sashiko, but that's way before we had enough food. So, for me, stitching is relaxing. I look forward to it. Yes. So it can be that simple. So the difference I could probably explain with using that analogy, like your example, thank you, Lori, is that relaxation is merely an outcome of stitching, right? It is just phenomenon, just as the something ongoing while doing stitching. So you are stitching for the purpose of stitching. As the result, you get relaxation. That's kind of the Sashiko I would like to pass down. But when we focus on the result or outcome, and then some people start stitching for the purpose of relaxation, then when it becomes the purpose, there's always a right way to do it and wrong way to do it. That's the limiting the definition. So it is perfectly fine to, use Sashiko's hand stitching as the relaxation. At the same time, if one starts teaching that Sashiko is the relaxing way, so you should do that, and if I start teaching Sashiko as the relaxation technique, that ruins the whole purpose, whole existing reasons. And if I start teaching how to relax, please stop me, or please worry about me for that, because I'm losing my mind. So that's kind of similar to Zen. Zen's principle, well, I shouldn't really talk about Zen because I'm not the master, but the principle of Zen is to be empty, not empty. Ku is the word for that. It's not empty, but it's ku. Ku in English. Probably emptiness is the direct translation, but empty does not click my understanding. Well, it might confuse you again, but the Zen's principle is be there but don't be there. Yes, I am there but I'm not there. So it's a similar thing. If you wanted to empty your mind, then you are trying to empty your mind. As the result, you cannot empty your mind. Sashiko is kind of similar. I would like to relax, therefore I'm stitching. Cannot probably bring one day. They might bring the relaxation, but it does not bring the whole experience. I can explain that in Japanese. I do actually explain that in Japanese, but there are no word to explain that, or probably my English is not good enough to explain that. But long story short, very complex idea. It's not a complex, it's very difficult to explain in word. Long story short, what I want you to try is to not to worry about the result much. So worrying about even stitches is not really the core of Sashiko stitching. Don't worry about rice grain size, which I keep making a joke that what kind of rice are we talking about? So, and this can be a very long story. This can be a very deep discussion because there's so many books about it. It's something the East meet West part in the history, like Eastern philosophy meeting the Western philosophy. So it's not something we can decide. We can talk about it here briefly. Therefore, it's really deep. Probably there's no way to use the word. And that's going to lead us to the topic today. Probably I cannot describe the core or even like the most important element of Sashiko in word. I don't think I can do that. I am trying. And please give me a chance to do it. I have not given up yet. But I don't know if I can explain that in English. I think I can explain that in Japanese, but I don't think I have ability to do so. But I can tell the core of Sashiko by teaching or sharing what it is. So, for example, there are non-Japanese people, American people who are probably here today that I can I see that she is getting the core, or she has gotten the core already, because the stitches can tell us. Stitches tell us that what they are thinking, what she is thinking, what he is thinking. So I have confirmed that it's not only about Japanese things, or I'm not going to limit that to Japanese people. Anybody can do it. It's just a little bit of paradigm shift. We have to look at one thing from different perspective, different angle. And the majority of, let's say, Western people in Sashiko who are looking for the answer will probably never get there because they are focusing on the answers or result. So Sashiko can be the art, but Sashiko itself is not the art. And there's no way to prove that. Only things we can do is to keep asking you to study, or not study, learn. So 先週 Just a second, I got a Japanese comment. I will read it and translate it. 先週運針を習いました。運針をしていると今に集中できて気持ちよくなり自由を感じられます。もっと上手くなればもっと自由になれるのが楽しみです。ありがとうございます。自由。自由。The translation is that she took my workshop in Japanese last week. Oh, no. Did you take my workshop? No. Yes. No? あれすみません。多分アカウント的に僕の懇親会に参加されいただいた方ですよね。あれ違ったらごめん。 But yeah, like, well, I have not given up, so I will keep trying, but just a second, I'm sorry. ありがとうございます。すいません。She is the one who took my workshop last week, and she learned, the running stage. She learned unshin from me actually. I do teach that in Japanese. So she is writing that she can feel now the moment by doing the unshin. And she is interested that if she can feel more sort of the freedom, no, sorry, because she can focus on the now, she can feel more free. She is wondering that if she can feel more free when she get used to, when she get better at stitching. The answer is kind of yes and no. I will talk about it tomorrow in Japanese as well, but getting better itself is already in dualism. Atsushi is good. He is talented. He has been doing a great job. He's been stitching for 10,000 hours, so he's good. Is already a category or mindset of good or bad, right? So it's in comparison. Everything can be compared in this world, and when we compare, we tend to categorize either good or bad, or in order to categorize, in order to identify what it is, we have to categorize it. We have to define it. The kind of question or the suggestion I'm doing is to give it up. Just don't do it for now. Just don't do those things and then just not even focusing on stitching, but focusing on now. And I am not focusing on stitching now because I'm talking in English, but I hope that you can sort of feel that moment. I don't want to be kind of spiritual person, but it's kind of like out of body experience. You are stitching, you are seeing that you're stitching, but you kind of don't control what you're doing. You can probably control what you're doing, but in order to get to that status, one cannot get there when we think about the result. And that's the one unfortunate things in today's Sashiko. Again, I'm not saying that Sashiko today is wrong. Don't get me wrong. It is perfectly fine to focus on the result. It became art, so it's good. You enjoy the art part. And it's perfectly fine to, understand it as you wish. Only things I'm asking, only things I'm speaking up for is that it's not the whole picture of Sashiko. As long as you understand it's not a whole picture, then, I'm going to support you, or I'm going to help whatever I can. Do you prefer to work on a larger piece? Hanafukin must be a piece of cake for you. Saw your Hanafukin video. The Hanafukin is not a piece of cake. It's kind of different. So, I don't have any preference for that, but when I stitch, I have two reasons to stitch. One, I want to make something that I can use. For example, denim. I stitch on the denim because I would like to wear that. The second case that I like to stitch is for the purpose of stitching. I would like to stitch, therefore I would like to stitch. I'm sorry, I would like to stitch, therefore I stitch. In that case, I don't have any specific idea of what I am going to use it for. I will use that piece of fabric for something, but I do not have the specific plan. So fukin is kind of in between. If I make fukin, I will not be able to use that in different project, so it is gonna be fukin there. But I don't think I need, tens of thousands, hundreds of fukins for my life, so I kind of stopped making that. And because of the Sashiko stitching, they last long, like F long. How many dishcloths do we need for our life if the fabric lasts long almost forever? So it's not that I do not want to stitch it, like, wow. And also the Sarashi fabric is kind of difficult to get in the US. And if I have a chance to purchase something from Japan, I really rather purchase this indigo fabric. I do have some Sarashi, few rolls of Sarashi just in case, but it's not my first choice. At the same time, I really am not good at it. I am not good at it making the hitomezashi or kugurizashi, like something that it requires the seize of rhythm stopping. So hanafukin is a sort of a dishcloth. It's probably you've seen that, Sharon. It's like a white square fabric, like this big. I don't have it right now here, but this I have it in my kitchen. This size square, 33 centimeters square. I don't know the inches. 34, 33 inch square. It's the very thin cotton fabric, probably usually 2 layers. They use that as the kind of canvas. Many people use the hitomezashi to make their sort of original. They sometimes say original, and I kind of don't understand that, but they use that colorful thread, and usually hitomezashi is probably popular right now. Not many people do this kind of running stitch. It does not mean that nobody does it, but it's for the very small square piece. And many people use that as a canvas to enjoy their design based on the grid. Being or doing without judgment or preconception. Yes, Helen, thank you. That's it. We judge ourselves quite often. We hate to be judged, but we are judging ourselves more than anybody. I am the one who judged myself the most in general, unless I'm not a psychopath or sociopath. So, and it is very easy to judge myself quietly and sort of ignore that judgment. So I judge myself, then ignore that judgment to feel okay. Then there are a lot of self-help books how to be okay with that judgment, or how to overcome those process. But I just wanted to try to not to even think about it, at least when you stitch. Like, do I care about how even the stitches are right now? Zero. I don't even know where I'm stitching right now. I don't know what's gonna be. So that's the sort of the message, I guess. I'm sorry to disagree, but I do not think that Fukin is a good material to teach. It's a good material to start enjoying Sashiko, but it's probably not the best fabric to teach Sashiko. At least the things I'm doing right now, I don't think I can teach with that. I mean, they can do what they learn in my workshop with Hanafukin, but that's probably gonna choose the people who can learn. My goal is to share the. My goal is to make everybody, literally everybody, to be able to do that. Of course, sometimes I cannot do that, but I would like to at least follow up until the one person can do what I share. And for that purpose, I do not use the Hanafukin because there are a few reasons that they are it's difficult to teach for that. I mean, it's not wrong again, but for me it is extremely difficult to teach with. that's why I don't really use that. I don't think I have never. No, that's from my childhood, so we don't teach that. Sharon, I hope it made sense. What is Hanafukin for the answer for that? So it's quite difficult to explain what Sashiko is, and it's perfectly fine to not to understand it. So I want to keep it like that. I don't understand the whole picture, and I want to keep it that way. So that's probably the way I like to share Sashiko. Therefore, it is very difficult to see people being the expert by just reading one book or, doing Google search. It can be more than that. Yes, just, Google Fukin or Hanafukin, or I may have video how to do Hanafukin probably. Maybe not. But Sharon, probably you can do it without problem, but yeah, it's a little challenging. I for the Japanese workshop, I use the Fukin to kind of test them if they can do the running stitch easier, the way I wish to do it. So it's not the easiest fabric to work with. But again, it's your preference, and it's perfectly fine to use that. It's not a wrong fabric. It's not a wrong fabric, or it's the bad fabric. I'm just saying there are reasons that I don't use that for the first workshop or first class. Yeah, so not there's something in between, or even outside of two element, outside of good or bad. It's not on the same line, or it might be something outside of it. It's something not verbalized, something in silent. We are the people, the Japanese are people of being silent, because we believe that sometimes silence is more important than talking. It can be wrong, and it is probably wrong, but since we're talking about Japanese culture, I want them to start enjoying the power of silence, which I am talking a lot, so I'm not following it. But somebody has to speak up to, keep the silent. It's like I hate capitalism, but I need money to change the capital. That's kind of the same thing. I want to change the capitalistic world, but in order to change it, I have to make money more than anybody. Yeah. That might be a similar thing. I like bigger pieces with long lines. Can enjoy the unshi more when I'm stitching on grid or turning lots of corners. Yes, that's one reason, but Sharon, you try it. Try Hanafukin. You probably will feel quite strange. It's probably like the strange is probably the word. It's not a wrong, it's not bad, it's just strange. And it's perfectly fine for anybody to start learning Sashiko with the Hanafukin fabric or Fukin fabric, but it's probably weird. Introversion would not be as big a problem in Japanese culture. I like the idea that silence can be more important than talking. Introvert. Probably we have to talk about the definition of the introvert, because the introvert in America may be extrovert in Japan. But we have to be quiet a lot. Every day, like in the educational system, we have to be quiet. Like you cannot just speak up for the question. You have to be quiet. You have to listen to the teachers no matter what, and then you have to be part of the system. Talking requires personality, right? Talking requires personality. If I speak up, I have to have my personality. I have to have my opinion. They don't like that. I may be making a big statement, so please do not believe what I'm saying. But the Japanese system is designed to make a person who can be good in the collectivism, in the group. So individualism is kind of outside of that, what we are taught. So it is much more important to be part of the community than being somebody the talented or genius. For that, the first choice we do is be quiet. So, and I was raised in that. Well, of course, you can be very nasty outside of the scene. You can talk trash about somebody behind the scene, but in general, where everybody look at you, they expect you to be quiet first. I mean, that's why I'm outside of. That is why I am not in Japan right now, because I wasn't like that. I tried my best to be like that, but I'm like this, so I cannot be quiet. And if I can be quiet, then I wouldn't be speaking. I would be better Sashiko. I mean, I don't want to use the word better, but I would be more Sashiko teacher-like. I would probably have more confidence in what I'm doing. I don't have the confidence in what I'm doing. which is another judgment, but I do not have the confidence. So silence is very important concept in Japan, and there is something in between those silence. Not only Japanese education culture act this way, probably so, I just don't know it. I just don't know that other cultures, so I'm just talking about Japanese in comparison to the Western culture, probably like US, which I even don't know, so I cannot compare that much. But is a hanafukin what zokin started as? Traditionally, no. Crafting wise, yes. The question was that how hanafukin. To answer that question, zokin is the word for any fabric to be used for the cleaning or any other purpose like cleaning purpose. So it does not have to be hanafukin to be zokin. But of course, one of the common destination for the hanafukin is zokin. So there, many people find that kind of process of making hanafukin, use it for the table, something dishes, and then use it for the floor first, in the kitchen, and then toilet, probably trash after that. So those are the kind of process of one fabric life. So hanafukin is part of that trust, because of the size, because of the purpose of hanafukin is to wipe the dishes or use in the kitchen. Common destination for that fabric hanafukin is zokin, and so that's right, that's a correct understanding. But the zokin is not the word only for that. Does it make sense? So not all the zokin start as hanafukin, but hanafukin is very common start of zokin. I hope it makes sense.どうしよっかな。負けてしまうのありか。Some people may like hanafukin better than this. I want them to be able to do both. In fact, many people start Sashiko with hanafukin in Japan. They kind of come to me after they practice several. Or many. They say that they do hanafukin first and then they come to my Sashiko class in Japan. It's kind of interesting because I did not know that the Japanese, I don't want to say many, but many Japanese people didn't know how to do this learning stage. So, for example, like this middle finger thimble, 5 years ago, when I made a first video on YouTube, not many people were using this thimble. As long as I know. And many people ask me to teach even in Japanese, so I made the Sashiko class in Japanese first. And now many people use it, even on YouTube, on Instagram, any social media, many people use this thimble. So I'm happy about it. I just want to know who their teacher is. If they copy mine, that's perfectly fine. Just just tell me that they copied mine. But if they have any specific teacher, hopefully, if we go back to the origin, probably it's going to be the Japanese person, Japanese teacher. I would like to meet them. to learn. Like, I do have teachers in my family, but they are my teacher, and that's not the whole picture of Sashiko. Again, my goal is to preserve the as whole Sashiko as possible. So if there's anybody who is using this symbol as I do it, I would like to learn something I'm missing. So if you know somebody, please let me know. If you have any other teachers, if you have a specific teacher who taught you how to use the symbol like this, please. I mean, it can be like a very secret. I'm not gonna talk about it on the YouTube. I'm not gonna talk about that person on Instagram unless I get the permission. So I just want to know. I'm asking the same question to the Japanese people as well. Yeah, thank you, D. I mean, it's really. I do not lie. I try to be as honest as possible on the Instagram or on the YouTube as well, because I am not smart enough to memorize all the like sort of fake messages I make, like, especially lie. I cannot. I used to be a good liar. Trust me, I used to be a very good liar. After I became father, I cannot have. I think I lost my part of brain that I cannot have any short-term memory. So if I start lying, I cannot. I have to find out what kind of lie I made. Yes, Kazue used that, and I asked Kazue who is her teacher, but she did not answer that question. So, and she's quite new, I guess. She said that she learned from her grandmother or somebody, probably. But she really did not specify who that was. It's not, the purpose is not to limit that. Just Kaze is the yeah, Kaze. I think I know her. I think we're talking about the same person. Yes. Sometimes the people with a lot of experience come to my workshop, and that's really scary. But it's fun to teach. It's fun to share those things. But trust me, there are many people who use the symbol like me today. Not like me, like us today. And I am not claiming that this is mine. It's not mine. It's somebody who practiced Sashiko a long time ago. I happen to receive it from my Sashiko artisans, and it is easy to imagine that people use similar things in a similar way because it's extremely simple. I just would like to talk to the person who have been stitching like this for, let's say, 30 years, 20 years, 30 years. Because I can talk about my thing, right? From those experiences with the 80 years old Sashiko artisans who taught me how to do those things. But that's very, very, very skewed, limited. It's not the whole picture. And that's what I'm talking about, that don't trust me too much too. My idea is true, but it's only my perception. It's not wrong, but it's not enough. My story cannot be enough neither. So my goal is to find somebody, like as many people as possible. When I was until 2010 or 11 actually, before I went to Atsushi, I thought that many people could use this symbol because it was very normal for me. It was not even questioned that almost everybody could. I thought everybody could do that. Like it's like the same, similar to expecting the others to be able to use the knife. If you grow up with the family who always cook family meal, you probably know how to use knife by the time of 15 or so. That's kind of similar idea that since I was, for that privileged, that I never doubted that I didn't know those things. So yes, it's still ongoing, and I sometimes talk about her, but Yoshiko Wada Sensei is now doing a research on this topic, so she will probably find something very academic information. She will find something new from academic perspective. She is focusing on etymology, so we will find something new, and I cannot wait to hear that. But at the same time, she said that she is not this teacher, so she will probably she may miss something that teacher may realize, and that's probably where I can somehow contribute. I don't know. Sashiko is not something anybody can own. Some people, there are people who claim that that's the original patterns. Maybe, but at the same time, since it has almost 300 or 400 years of experience, the history, so somebody may have made a similar thing, but they just did not resist to that. So that might not be the origin. But insisting that it's original is very important in this Western culture, because you have to speak up to prove yourself. It's not, well, it is common for the Japanese people this age, but that's not common for the Japanese who practice Sashiko. Therefore, I try to not to do those things. Well, it's very idealistic. I may be extremely stupid for that. I may lose opportunities, or I may lose my own culture by doing it. Many people told me that I shouldn't be doing right now, showing anything like this online, because anybody can copy it. Anybody can make out of it. If you worry about cultural appropriation, you shouldn't share those things. Yeah, that I understand it. At the same time, even if I lose my personal interest or my personal things, I just don't want Sashiko to be filtered, because that's what defined me. That's how simple. I don't know if you kind of share these ideas, but for some reason, I don't have anything I want in this life anymore. That's kind of scary, though. I don't really, I am not particular about what to eat. I am not particular about what kind of car I drive. I don't care about bed, or pillow, or blanket. As long as it's warm, I'm okay. What else? I decided to not to purchase any clothes in 2017, so I cannot do that, right? There's no budget for clothing. And, well, what else? I don't drink. I quit drinking. I quit smoking. I quit gambling. Books, probably, but I don't have that much time to read. What else? What else do I want? Yes, probably studio might be the biggest. It's some nice studio that I don't have to worry about cleaning up. where I can just dump it everywhere so that I can work on. I have to clean because the space I'm working right now is pretty small. I don't like cleaning much. So studio may be what I want, but I don't really have ambition to get something. I need money to provide my family, so of course money is important, but I do not have that kind of ambition to be more extremely successful in terms of finance. I'm gonna be doing the exactly same thing. I'm gonna be stitching. I cannot stitch 20 times faster even if I become rich. I'll be stitching. I cannot outsource stitching because I like stitching. I may ask somebody to help me, but that's not gonna change my lifestyle. I may buy a lot of fabric from Japan if I have enough money though. But that's about it, right? So it's not my goal to sort of protect it in a sense of capitalistic ideas, I guess. I mean, it sounds like idealistic, very, very idealistic, and it sounds like BS. BS. I know because I was probably the one who's not probably. I was the one who would say that that's BS in 20s. But I never expected that I would be like this. But I don't want it. That's scary. I want something, but what I want? What do I want? I do have a car, but as long as it drives, I'm okay. I mean, of course, it's probably better to have a safe car than small car, but for myself only, that's not really. So it's strange. It's strange, and because it's strange, not everybody understands what I'm doing. I probably told this story somewhere, but the reason I restarted this Sashiko is purely to support my mother who wanted to do Sashiko, and she's a nightmare. As you know, she's a nightmare. My mother Keiko is a nightmare. She's a genius Sashiko artist or stitcher. She is brilliant, brilliant creator, brilliant. If I keep saying that Sashiko is not an art, but I can call her artist because what she makes is really unique and brilliant. But having a mother as the artist is a nightmare. And since I am the one who sort of left her in Japan, I'm in the US, she's in Japan, so I kind of feel not guilty, but I feel bad that I'm not there for her. So I like to help support her as much as I can in as many aspects as possible. So that's how I started this business. It says business, but it's a single member LLC, so it's pretty much solo proprietor. And it does go to my wife and daughter. So as long as I can help them, I can be their support. I think that's the end of my desire. So I don't think that money can buy the happiness. I don't think money can buy happiness. At the same time, it is indeed that money can avoid unfortunate. So I would like to be able to make money or have money for that matter to avoid unfortunate case scenario. But that does not mean that I need money tomorrow or next month or next year. So I can focus on something more idealistic, which is to pass down the Sashiko as is. And that's what I have to fight back. I sometimes talk about money here because it is important. It is very important to talk about it to sustain this kind of, craft in terms of sustainable activities. But if you want to make money, if you are doing Sashiko to make money, rethink about it. Stop doing it and think about it one more time, because it's not gonna make money. I don't think so. There gotta be better way to spend your. If you like stitching, and then if you end up with having business out of Sashiko, that's a different story. If you like it, of course you can do it. But if you are doing Sashiko for the purpose of income or money or profit, be careful. That's a difficult thing to do. But probably there are some people coming in who will do Sashiko for their profit, regardless if they like it or not. But they probably cannot continue doing it because it does not do good. But again, like I keep saying, like if they want to do Sashiko as the result, like let's say I made too many, I stitched too many denims, so I want to sell. That's another story. Since the trend is a scary thing, trend is gonna bring those who wants to make profit. And if they jump onto those things, it can be. At the same time, I like those people though. it might confuse you, but I like those people who really only think about money and in doing Sashiko. I was not talking about money this much, but for example, if somebody comes to me and I ask him or her that why do they, or what do you like about Sashiko, and if their answer is, well, it gets population, I get more likes, or I get more revenue by using the word Sashiko, that makes sense to me, and that's totally fine. Probably that's no good for the cultural appropriation perspective, but I'm okay with that because that makes sense, right? Since Sashiko became the trend, and for some reason, if I have a hashtag of Sashiko, more people come. The more people come, the more sales I make. Therefore, I use Sashiko as the hashtag. Do you care about Sashiko? Yeah, for the purpose of making money, yes, I do care about Sashiko. If the answer from him or her is like that, I understand. So I mean, many people probably find it offensive, but personally, I am. I will. This happened actually. So I asked him. It was him. I asked him to read my story so he can learn more about it. But that's that was it. He might be using the same hashtag, but that was it. That's the end of the story. And I still have that as a good memory. The only case scenario is those who try to change the Sashiko for their perspective, saying that what they do is cultural things, not for the money, yet they're changing it for their perspective. That's the only case scenario, but that's kind of the case scenario. That's the common case scenario when we talk about culture. Because they don't want to talk about money, so they talk about culture. But their goal is money. Therefore, they start filtering the culture. And that's the saddest things, and that's something I have to sort of stop, or that's how I define cultural appropriation. I hope it makes sense. It's really, I have a probably very different understanding for that word. So it is perfectly for you to call it anything, and if you're stitching Sashiko borrow. But I just don't want you to change what it can be based on somebody's convenience. Hello and thank you for the live stream. My pleasure. I may go off soon. It's about 10 after 10, so I'm getting sleepy. About 10:30-ish, I will probably go off now. Where did I talk about the cultural sustainability? Probably that was NPR? Probably NPR. Very small segment, but that's something I talked with them. Well, they did such a good job to slim my message into a minute. We talked for 45 minutes or 1 hour over the phone. The editor did a fantastic job to summarize it, but that's, yeah, that's the core message. That being said, you don't have to worry about anything if you're here, because you are enjoying what you're. I think my words are very uncomfortable to hear if you are not. Sorry, my words are extremely uncomfortable if you don't like Sashiko. If you're doing Sashiko because you like Sashiko, probably you're okay. It might be uncomfortable somewhat, but it's not as screaming uncomfortable because you like it anyway. However, if you do Sashiko for the purpose, if you do Sashiko without liking it, my word can be very, very, very uncomfortable. Wow, that's why I get a lot of haters, right? Not a haters, but many blocks. I'm glad that my first Sashiko learning experience came from someone with your innate knowledge of the subject. Now, at the start of my practice, I see Sashiko's technique being taught that make me wince. Thank you. I said that at probably the end of the live session, but please keep learning though. You can learn Sashiko from anybody, and I want you to kind of choose what you like. But usually, my teaching has a lot of stories behind it. Those stories valid the experience. Not about guarantee the experience for that matter, because our teaching is based on story. So yeah, but I don't know what authentic is, to be honest. Well, we talked about last time as well, but many people tell me that I'm authentic. Well, I am just sharing what I can. But it's not, I'm not saying my Sashiko is the whole picture of Sashiko or my Sashiko is the best Sashiko. It's just one form of Sashiko which is not introduced in English yet. Thank you, Lori. Have a good weekend. So, yes. Unfortunately, the Sashiko we have been practice has not been introduced. That's one thing for sure. That's why I have to speak up. Because it is true that many people stitched like we do. Unless I'm completely hallucinating. But then it does not make sense that I can stitch. So I don't think I'm hallucinating. But I am sane enough to doubt it. But again, I cannot explain why I can stitch if I from there. You know, we can change the past. Many people say that they say that we cannot change the past. We can change the past. Memory changes over time. I've seen that from many people. Memory from many other people's perspective change. Therefore, it is very important to keep doubting. Is it really true? Is it true? Is it true? To me, not to you, not to the public. Is it true to me or not? And I try to share the only stories that I feel it's true to me. Not true, it's honest to me. See, I'm not doing a great job to be liked. It's okay. That's not my goal. Of course, you know, it is better to be liked, but it's not my goal, so it's okay. Okay, one more line. So my topic drifted today a lot. I was gonna talk about in between, but end up talking about why I don't know, but money. But if you have any specific questions, please let me know. If you're watching this is in the archive, I will try to answer that. If you're watching this as an archive, please leave the comments so I can talk about it in the next next live streaming. And I kind of mentioned about haters, but either it is bot, or somebody who doesn't like what I'm saying. Well, that's kind of like a nice, so not a certification. How can I say? It inform me that I'm doing something interesting or something good, not a good or bad. How do I explain that? Anyway, I don't know how to explain. I started getting a lot of dislike all of a sudden, or many videos as well as the live streaming. So if you could give me the like button, which I probably have never set up before in English, but it seems like that the more it's like about ratio, the good button mean the ratio of good button is gonna affect the channel's health. Then if the channel health goes somewhere like some standard, I don't know what's the benchmark Google decide, but it has to have certain things, and I don't know, but it is my goal to keep this channel. So if you can put the good, if you can click the good one, that'd be great. I'm trying to do machine, but my cat is lying across my arms. Well, give up. There's no way that you can do running stitch with cats on your arm. That's a good time to give up. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. That helps. uh, as you know, I can be very idealistic. So I used to, and I probably feel the same way. But I kind of realized that I don't really care how many who likes what I'm doing. I care who likes or who understand what I'm doing. So the numbers was not important to me so much. It's still not the most important thing, but it seems like the number became a power in this society, and without number, my idealism is just a BS, just just a trash. So I think I have to care about that too. Hey, it's a very difficult world. Thank you, thank you. But not many haters are like, for some reason I get a lot of bad comment, not a bad sign recently, but I don't have that many actual haters who attack me. I mean, I'm not saying there's zero. I'm not saying the number is zero. Of course I do get those, you know, very aggressive comment. Probably I start not responding. That's probably the reason I don't have more of those. Before, I used to reply pretty much everything because I wanted to understand why she or he is saying that. But now I kind of stopped doing that. That's why I probably don't get more of those. Simply, I became too busy to answer those like aggressive comments. It's probably what many people advise me is don't listen to them and don't engage with them. But I wanted to learn why they write those things, because I thought that hint to what I can do is inside of that comment. And I do still believe that there are hints inside of those aggressive comment. I appreciate those because they spend time for that. But at the same time, as the result of, I would like to reply to those who appreciate. So, and I have only 24 hours per day. Where are the most negative found? Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube? It used to be on the Facebook. Facebook can be quite quite aggressive, but I do not engage in Facebook anymore because it's kind of scary. It's not scary, but it's very how can I explain that? I can be a minority. Don't worry about it, Sharon. Helen, you rubies. YouTube comment cannot correct it. And it happens. And I made my own Facebook group to very much, limit. Facebook is a place where people kind of showcase their Sashiko, and because the freedom of their individual understanding of Sashiko is more important than the actual story, because that's the place to be the artist, that's the place to sell the craft, that's the place to, show off. So I used to engage a lot, but I kind of stopped doing that. Probably muted the group. And I decided I have my own group where I have very strict rules for the Facebook. The Instagram used to be a horrible place. It's like a war zone. But it stopped. I don't know why. What happened? I don't know what happened, but it stopped. Around 2019 to like before COVID. Before COVID. After COVID, I don't have that much hateful messages. Why not? Yeah, that's like 2020 spring. So COVID is the sort of the time that it. That's very interesting. Some people want a reaction. They are not worth them. Yes. As you say, stick to the comments that are constructive and interested. It is very true, Candidate. It's very, very true, Candida. And I understand it in my brain, but I'm very idealistic, stupidly idealistic, to think that there might be something missing in that. And I used to really try to get that out of it, but you know, I don't have time for that right now. So anyway, it is all good. I hope that my intentions are clear today, although I kind of talked about very specific things. I share my honest preferences. I share my honest opinions, because it's not good to. It does not do a better if I say, even if I say something comfortable. That's not that doesn't do good. So sometimes it might be too uncomfortable to hear, but please understand that it is not my intention to exclude others. My goal is to include as many people as possible. And since the Sashiko you know may exclude some part of Japanese Sashiko already, you or they may be innocently excluding or filtering the culture without knowing it. The reason I exist here, the reason I speak up is, Sakura, the reason I speak up here is to make sure that they know it. And I still believe that, I still is a kind of word, but I believe that the humans are decent being by itself. So if they know it, if they acknowledge it, they probably care about those things. Sorry, the cat came, so I have to stop stitching. She's gonna probably jump on the stitching. And Sakura, can you say hello? You don't probably say those things. For some reason, there are so many cat lovers. Well, actually, not only cat. Many Sashiko people have pets. That's interesting. That's really interesting. But many Sashiko practitioners have pets. And having a pet is the sort of worst things for Sashiko stitching, because they can destroy it. And you cannot stitch while they're here. And so it's kind of interesting. Like, I had a pets, but we had a studio to work with, and the studio was that no animal could get into that studio. Actually, no human could get into that studio. Actually, no outsider was allowed to get in, so it's a different story. Sakura, are you gonna jump or what? Well, wait. Okay, this is not the live streaming of this cat, so I will. Wait, what? What? You gonna make out in the live streaming? That's not good. You don't want to make out in the live streaming. Okay, this is not the cat live streaming, so I will go off. But what am I gonna say? So this is the live stream. This was the live streaming, and if you're watching this as the archive, please leave the comments so we can talk about it the next time we talk about the next week. All right, I hope you had a good time stitching together, and this is my goal to share those times together every Thursday night. In these busy days, if we could spend time together just stitching while sharing. Those comments are really my own story that you may be able to learn something from. So I hope that you can keep stitching, you can keep enjoying your own stitching. I will see you next week, Thursday again. Have a good night. Bye bye.